Please welcome to the stage Yasir Khan, Editor-in-Chief of Context.
That is me. Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to come to Trust Conference. Welcome. Glad to see you all here, and as you must have seen from the banners outside and the banners inside and the water bottles at the registration desk, Context is the headline media partner of Trust Conference. We have just launched a few weeks ago. Happy to welcome you to Trust Conference. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're doing here at Context and I know it's almost lunchtime, you guys are probably starving, so I'll let you go very, very quickly. We launched Context on September 29th of this year. A lot of folks asked me, why did we do this? Why did we launch in a sea of new websites, in a sea of new journalism? Why Context? And there are really three reasons for it. First one is that the way our readers and our audiences consume the news has evolved since our news desk was established back in the late 1990s. 2/3 of our readers come to us from mobile. 1/4 of them come to us from social platforms. And what we did with Context was design a user experience, a website with user experience at its core. It's uncluttered, it's signposted, it's clear, and it's multimedia. That was the whole idea, is to give our users a seamless experience of the world-class journalism that we do. The second reason is we cover three things. We have three areas of focus: climate, inclusive economies, and how big technology impacts society. And the interconnectedness of these three areas of focus cannot go unmentioned. Climate, for instance, now permeates every single type of journalism that we do, from politics to science to even art and culture. And that interconnectedness is what we wanted to embrace with our content, with our journalism. And the third reason is that we wanted to give our journalism and package it with a distinct look and feel. Excuse me. It's good to freshen up every now and then, and this is us freshening up our journalism. And that with that distinct look and feel, we've built Context for. People always ask me, who's this for? Who are you doing this for? Well, the short answer is, if you're here in this room, or if you've signed up for Trust Conference, or if you even know about Trust Conference, it's for you. It's for people who seek depth and insight in the journalism that they consume, and want to be able to use the journalism to make meaningful decisions in their fields of work. And that's what we're about. We're about the useful journalism, something that you can print off or screenshot and take into a boardroom and say, hey, look at what's happening with this. What can we do about it? So our newsroom has seen a lot of change over the last little while: new website, new ways of working, a lot of near vertical learning curve in terms of digital literacy. But what has not changed and what will not change is the journalism. And I just have a very quick little story about this, which is possibly my favorite story of my career. I was at a job interview about 15 years ago, and somebody asked me, the media executive who was interviewing me asked, so what's the next big thing in journalism? What are you bringing to the table? And my answer was, it's journalism. Journalism should always be the constant, should always be the big thing. It was always the big thing, and it always ought to be. And that is the promise of Context to you, is fair, accurate, and impartial journalism will always be the constant, no matter what sort of skin we put it in and what sort of uncluttered, seamless, easy-to-use website we put it on. Journalism will always be at the core of our values. So there'll be a short video right after I finish, and then you guys can go eat. Thank you for coming.
This is how many of us are watching the war in Ukraine. Through videos posted on our social feeds from civilians, soldiers, and others on the front lines.
It's not just fed to us by journalists anymore. It's not just brought to us over an evening news slot. This is information as it happens by the minute.
That's Ben Strick, a digital investigator. It's his job to make sense of all this. He goes to painstaking steps to verify the authenticity of footage and glean as much information as possible from it.
We are trying to defend the facts on the ground, to show exactly what happened through cross-referencing, open sources, footage filmed by civilians in Ukraine.
What he discovers could one day be used to punish those responsible in a court of law. Using this dashcam clip of an explosion in Chernihiv, Ukraine posted online, Strick shows us some of the verification techniques he uses.
When looking at this footage, we address it in 4 simple ways, and we start to answer these simple questions of where, when, what, and who might be responsible for strikes like what happened in Chernihiv. So if we rewind the footage and we have a look at the start, what we can see are some specific buildings, we've got street signs, the car turns right at what is quite a large intersection. If we stop here, up on the right, we can see a blue shop sign called Gorenje. If we go to Google Maps and we type in that search term, Gorenje, we're able to find this place. And I'll bring it up on Street View right here. We have a lot of Street View in Ukraine, but sadly a lot of it's quite old. Some of it's 2015 and 2016. So sometimes the shop might be there, but it might not actually be seen on Street View. But what's more important is the fact that we can start to match some of these older buildings and some of the bigger buildings that we see in the background. So for example, in this footage, just before we see the explosion, we see this building on the right with lots of chimneys. If we have a look at our Google Street View, we can also see the exact same building right here, with that terracotta red brick, that brownie roof, and lots of little chimneys on the roof there. This one's quite handy because dashcam footage comes with a timestamp as well. So for example, we can see the timestamp of 2022, March 3. And we can also see the exact time that the explosion happened in the foreground of this footage, at 12:16 that day. This is important to look at, but we can't just rely on that. We can also look at, for example, metadata or EXIF data of where this video was uploaded. It was uploaded on Telegram, so if we look at the original timestamp of when this footage was uploaded, we can see that it was uploaded just after this footage was filmed.
Without metadata, Strick uses other tricks to verify the date by spotting something in a video like the cost of fuel or using the weather.
So for example, had it rained? Was there snow? Was it a sunny day? But we can also look at other things, like for example, shadows. So some of these street signs on a sunny day will have quite a long shadow. That's quite interesting because we can turn that object into a sundial.
With the when and where figured out, Strick tries to determine exactly what happened. Sometimes this involves identifying military personnel or equipment, or the cause of an explosion. In this case, it can come down to counting missiles.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, as they fly through and then the explosion happens. This is really important because we can identify the type of thing that was used in this attack.
Strick tracked down 2 other videos from the same explosion to gather more information.
This is helpful for us because when we match this footage up, we can see that the strike would have only have come from this side, which means that the strike came from an easterly direction rather than any others to hit that side of the building.
Strick and his team post their findings on social media, sometimes within a few hours of the original clip. Unfortunately, this information isn't available to everyone.
The issue is, not much of this information is getting into Russia, and this is a really important aspect. The social media platforms that we publish on are banned in Russia. They're not being viewed by Russian citizens.
But making all this information public is only part of the goal here.
The reason why we do all of this painstaking work is so that one day there can be some sort of justice and accountability for what's happening in Ukraine. We log all of this information in a database. We store it safely and secure. It is verified so that perhaps one day lawyers, judicial organisations can rely on this information when there are investigations into potential war crimes in Ukraine.
I'm Fran, the producer for this video. If you want to see more stories, subscribe to the channel.